So, what is the one single thing that has pretty much every economist, investor, and world leader holding their breath for 2025? It's a huge question, and it's what we're breaking down right now. Welcome to our explainer on what many are calling the 2025 economic reset. It really feels like the whole world is on edge, bracing for some pretty big changes. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start with the big picture, this kind of global downgrade we're seeing. Then we'll get into the main costs, the whole America First idea and its global impact. From there, we'll see how it's literally rewriting the trade map, look at the new risks popping up because of it, and wrap up with how to think about navigating this much more fragmented world. All right, first up, the big picture. And I want to be really clear here. We are not talking about some minor tweak. What we're looking at is a major fundamental global downgrade. The simplest way to put it is this. The global economy is being pushed downward. All that momentum we thought we had coming out of the last few years, well, it's hitting some serious headwinds. And that's forcing everyone to rethink their growth projections. The real question is, why? And just look at this. It's not one pessimistic voice in the crowd. We've got the IMF, the UN, the OECD, the World Bank. They have all revised their growth forecasts for 2025 down. This isn't just a slight disagreement, it's a chorus. They're all seeing the same signs of a major slowdown fueled by global uncertainty. So, where is all this uncertainty coming from? What's the main driver behind this whole economic reset? Well, let's get right to the catalyst that's putting everyone on edge. And here it is. The single biggest variable everyone is watching is the potential for a massive seismic shift in U.S. trade policy, a return to a really aggressive America First stance. Now, this isn't just about politics, it's a potential economic shockwave, and you can bet that markets are trying to figure out how to price it in as we speak. And this number, 60%, this is what's grabbing all the headlines. We're talking about a threatened tariff of 60% on all goods coming in from China. I mean, a move that big wouldn't just be a policy change. It would completely upend the rules of global trade as we know them. But okay, while a number like that is huge, it's worth looking back. The last time around, the big sweeping threats often ended up being more negotiated. Things were handled on a product-by-product basis, which meant the actual effective tariff rates ended up being quite a bit lower than those initial scary headlines. The billion-dollar question for 2025 is, will we see that same pattern again? Now, here's the thing. This potential shift is already having a huge impact. Companies and entire countries, they aren't just sitting around waiting to see what happens. They're acting now. And in the process, they're literally rewriting the global trade map. It's like a chain reaction, right? Tariffs on Chinese goods make them more expensive. So what do companies do? They look elsewhere. We see U.S. imports from China drop off, and that production has to go somewhere. Suddenly, other countries across Asia, like India for smartphones or Vietnam and Thailand for laptops, step in to fill that void. And you can literally see this happening right here. Take a look at where the U.S. gets its smartphones. You can see this dramatic drop from China, and at the exact same time, a huge surge from India and a big increase from Vietnam. This isn't some future prediction. This is a strategic realignment that's already well underway. And this whole shift, it's not just about where we get our stuff. It's about where big money is being invested for the future. This map shows what are called greenfield investments. That's when a company builds a brand new factory or facility from the ground up. And what it tells us is that capital is getting way more picky, flowing to regions seen as safe strategic partners. And right now, Europe is attracting the lion's share of those new projects. So all of this change and uncertainty, it creates a whole cascade of new risks. And for certain industries, especially a sector like banking, it means they have to throw out the old playbook and write a completely new one. If you look inside the financial world, you can feel the pressure building. For community bankers, the two biggest concerns are tied at the top, both at a massive 89%, the weight of regulation and the rising cost of funding. It makes sense, right? In a shaky global economy, regulators are watching every single move to make sure the system stays stable. And they're especially zooming in on something called credit risk. Basically, that's the risk that people or companies won't be able to pay back their loans. In a world with this much uncertainty, chief risk officers are all expecting intense scrutiny on who they're lending money to, and more importantly, if they've put enough cash aside in case some of those loans go bad. And look, these risks, they aren't just abstract ideas on a chart. We are seeing real-world consequences play out. You have countries like Turkey battling absolutely staggering inflation. This is the real, tangible impact of global volatility, especially on emerging markets. And it's a story we're seeing in different forms all across the developing world. So let's step back and bring all of this together. The shifts in trade, the new financial risks, they all point to something much, much bigger. What we're witnessing is the fraying, maybe even the breakdown of the old global order. I think Japan's Ministry of Economic, Trade, and Industry put it perfectly. They called this a historic turning point. And that really hits the nail on the head. This isn't just another dip in the economic cycle. It's a deep, fundamental shift away from global cooperation and towards a world where every country is increasingly looking out for number one. So this is the new playbook. The rules of the game have totally changed. It's all about restructuring your supply chains to cut down on risk. It's about making investment decisions based on geopolitics, not just profits. And it's about figuring out how to operate in a world where those old universal rules of trade are, well, they're fraying at the seams. And as that old order frays, you see new alliances stepping up. A perfect example is the expanded BRICS bloc. They're not just talking, they're actively building a parallel financial system. They're developing tools like BRICS Pay and BRICS Bridge, and their goal is explicit: to become less dependent on the US dollar and on the Western financial system as a whole. Which really leaves us with this one big final question. For decades, the whole point of global trade was to build economic bridges between nations. But in this new era, an era defined by me-first policies, who's going to build the bridges of the future? And what will those bridges even look like? That's the challenge that's going to define 2025 and probably the rest of the decade.